Hi guys, welcome back to my channel and welcome if you are new. My name is Kai and without further ado, let's go ahead and get straight into today's video. So today we are going to be doing some eclectic and kind of grungy nails. Not really sure how to describe it. I initially wasn't planning to do these nails, so this was a bit of a random nail set and it was definitely unplanned for, but I wanted to combine some different ideas from Pinterest into one singular nail set, and here is what I came up with. Of course, all of the credit goes to the original artists, so let's jump into it. In my last video, I did do a completely full nail set to last, so my nails are pretty much prepped already. So I'm starting off by adding my peel it off base coat from Macart to my nails, and just to ensure that these come off easily, I'm going to be adding a little bit of cuticle oil as well. I'm actually adding less than usual because I'm planning to wear these for a few days, but if you want these to last a bit longer, you can prep as usual and omit this entire process. And if you'd like to learn a little bit more about my prepping process, I talked about that in my last video, and I also talked about the essentials that you're going to need for some beginner nails. So yeah, that will definitely be up in the cards if you're interested in checking that out. So after applying the oil, I'm going to go in with 2 coats of my peel it off base coat, and I'm making sure to cure each layer for a full 60 seconds. Now it's time to size out my nail tips, and for convenience, I'm going to be doing some gel extensions today. I'm just using some full cover nail tips, and these are some of my favorites because they have a nice length and they also have a built-in apex, but honestly, any tip of your choice can work here. Now, as I mentioned, these are just some basic full cover nail tips. These aren't meant to be applied as gel extensions, so I'm going to take this time to scuff the inside just to ensure that these actually adhere properly. Because it's so shiny on the inside, that is a good indicator that these will absolutely pop off. So I want to make sure to remove that, and to remove that, I'm just going to be using a little sanding band. It really doesn't matter what you use, as long as you're making sure that the inside is fully buffed. Now, usually I would cure these on using my Model 1's builder gel, but I'm running low on that, so I'm going to use this nail glue from Beetles, which I'm honestly not too much of a fan of. It's a bit looser than I would like it to be, which makes it easier to flood, so there definitely was a bit of a learning curve here. For these tips in specific, I do like to use a bit more gel towards the tip of my natural nail, just to make sure that I'm filling in that apex. And once it's placed down nicely, I'm going to go ahead and cure that using my portable lamp. So now that these tips are on, we're gonna jump straight into shaping these. And the first thing I'm gonna do is just cut them down using some tip cutters. So now that I have my desired length, it's time to seal the cuticles. Now, there are different methods that people use for gel extensions, and I've been using this specific method recently as it is a bit easier for me, honestly, but it also means that the cuticle area doesn't really look that good. So I like to take this time to blend the nail tip into my cuticle area using a ceramic bit, and I'm not going overboard here. I just want to remove the ledge and any possible flooding. And with that being said, I'm using a pretty low speed of about 5,000 to 6,000 RPMs. And if you happen to have any major flooding, do make sure to pull the skin around the nail back first and then go in with your filing tool just to make sure that you aren't accidentally cutting your skin in the process. After getting the cuticles nice and sealed, I'm going to sharpen up the general shape of these nails using my 80/80 grit nail file. Of course, 80/80 grit may be a little bit abrasive for some, so any file that you have can work here. And while I'm here, I'm going to file the sides in a bit for a cleaner and more angular square look. Personally, I find that these nail tips are kind of round, and personally, I don't really like that, so I try and make sure that everything is a little bit more angular. Lastly, I'm going to buff the nails to prep them for the nail art process. I'm pretty vigorous here, honestly, as I don't want the nail polish to peel, so I make sure to get every single last nook and cranny as best as possible. And that is going to close up our extension process. Okay, so now we're finally onto the nail art, and the first thing I'm going to do is just go ahead and mix out all of my colors. As you guys know, I do use a lot of different nail polish colors, but honestly, most of these can be achieved by just mixing whatever you have and making that work. So with that being said, you don't need to go out of pocket and buy a whole bunch of gels that you probably won't use. Just focus on getting better at mixing colors to achieve the desired look. But anyways, I'm going to be using pretty much all of the colors of the rainbow, especially for that infrared nail. But other than that, most of the colors in this nail set are going to be kind of muted. So here is what the color palette is looking like. So before we do anything, I'm going to go ahead and wipe off my nails with a little bit of isopropyl alcohol just to remove any excess dust. So the first thing I'm gonna do is just work on the base of all of these nails, and I'm just gonna start out on my pointer finger and my middle finger at the same time. So my pointer finger is gonna be completely painted using this black gel polish from Beetles, and honestly, if you have a more opaque black, definitely go with that. I'm running a little bit low on mine, so I just substituted for Beetles, but if you are using something a little bit more opaque, you can definitely get away with only doing one coat. I'm gonna be doing 2 coats for both of these colors, and for my middle finger, I'm actually gonna be using a builder gel, but I'm gonna try and use it as a gel polish because I'm really just looking for the nice nude base color and not so much the thickness. And again, I'm doing both of those colors in 2 layers. Now for my ring finger, I'm going to be using this sheer blue color, and I'm going to paint that on the entirety of this nail. Honestly, it looked very nice in blue here, but when I was finished with the nail set, it almost looked gray. So in hindsight, I would definitely recommend going for something slightly lighter and a little bit more blue toned instead of going for that muted color, because honestly, it wasn't as blue as I would like it to be. And for my thumbnail, I'm going to be going with this cerulean slash purple color. It shows up a lot more purple on camera, but it's a little bit more blue in person. And again, I'm doing that in 2 layers. So now that the base of these nails are done, I'm gonna jump straight into the first nail, and that's gonna be the infrared nail. This nail is pretty straightforward. I'm just using a line art brush to help me roughly sketch out the areas that I want to be infrared, and I'm gonna be working through all of the colors of the rainbow, starting from this light blue all the way to the red. Now, I would definitely recommend leaving a very small gap in between each of these colors, especially if you want the red to shine through the most, because if you leave a pretty big gap in between each of these colors, you're not really going to have space for the next one that follows it. And honestly, I really do wish that I didn't make the gap so big, because the red really wasn't as apparent as I really wanted it to be. But even still, I do like the overall effect. I know that most people get this effect by painting all of these colors on their nails and then filing it down, but I figured that that would just be too much of a hassle. So I figured that this would be the next best option. And after I've got all of those colors on, that is pretty much this nail done. So I'm gonna go in with a single layer of top coat, and I'm gonna cure that for a full 60 seconds. So next we're going to jump onto the middle finger, and this one is a bit interesting because I'm not really sure what it's supposed to be. It kind of gives me toxic waste vibes, so that's what I'm going to go for. The first thing that I'm going to do is paint this nail in a single layer of blooming gel. And then I'm going to take a very small dotting tool and I'm going to dot this lime green color just onto random parts of this nail. I feel like this part kind of gives me radioactive and again like toxic waste, so I'm being kind of random with it, and I want it to kind of resemble mold or fungal spores of some kind. So again, not really being too neat with this. I'm making sure to do my dots in different sizes and kind of space them out differently just to give it a little bit of variation. And after that's done, I'm going to paint this entire nail using a sheer white because we are going to be doing something very similar to the water effect that was popular about 2 summers ago, I believe. So after painting on the sheer white, I'm going to take some base coat and I'm going to dot some dots on top of the white before I cure that. And I tried my best to overlap some of those dots with the green dots that I put underneath just for a bit of added depth. And after that, I just went ahead and wiped down the sides just to make sure that it wasn't flooding too much, and I cured that for about 30 seconds. Now this nail is going to have some chrome detailing, and if you've been here for some time, you already know what I do when I'm doing chrome nails. I love to add a layer of matte top coat before I do any type of isolated chrome. The matte top coat just makes it so that the chrome doesn't get stuck in places where you don't want it. And usually after I do the matte top coat, I still like to buff the nail very slightly just to make sure that it is absolutely as smooth as possible so that the chrome goes exactly where I want it to go. And now we're going to get into the chrome detailing, which honestly was very tedious and kind of annoying and hard because for me personally, I'm really bad at circles, and I was using a long liner brush because some of these circles are going to be pretty big. But honestly, I would recommend using the thinnest short brush that you have simply because you want to hit those curves just right and make it look as round as a circle actually is. But if you're working with a long liner brush, then again, the curves aren't going to be as controlled as you want them to be. And for me personally, I think that this design looks really good with super thin lines. So again, I definitely recommend using a short and thin liner brush. Now after I've got that detailing on, I'm going to cure that for anywhere between 15 and 20 seconds, and then we're going to top it using this silver chrome here. Now because this nail is kind of abstract, I do think that any chrome color could look really, really cool here. I did decide to just play it safe and follow my reference as best as I could, and honestly this is one of my favorite nails. I think that the color combination is just so cool, and again it gives me toxic waste slash fungal and mold spores, and I don't know, I just think that's very cool. Now, as you can see, I am going back in and adding a couple of droplets here and there in between some of those circles. And the reason I'm doing this is because I want to add a little bit of texture and depth within my chrome detailing for this nail set, because I don't really like the effect of just really flat chrome, especially with designs like this. But of course, if one layer is okay for you, then definitely just go for one layer. Now after adding a few more layers in just random spots of this nail, that is pretty much this nail done, so I'm going to go over that with a layer of top coat. Okay, and now we're working on our ring finger. So the first thing I'm going to do is paint this nail in a single layer of blooming gel. Now after I've got that blooming gel on, I'm going to take this medium long liner brush and I'm going to be using this black gel polish to kind of drag out the left side of this nail. I'm not really sure how to describe this, but honestly, I will say that I was very happily surprised with how well I was able to do this on the first try. I will say though, do make sure that you don't add too much gel polish during this process because you don't want those sections to bleed into one another, so do be very, very mindful of that. Now after curing that, I'm going to go over this nail again with another layer of matte top coat because we're going to be doing some more chrome detailing on this nail. And after curing on that matte top coat for about 60 seconds, I'm going to buff the nail using the softer side of my nail buffer and wipe it off with a little bit of isopropyl alcohol. Now just to create a nice thick border, I am going to mix in a little bit of rhinestone glue into the sheer black that I already mixed earlier. And I'm going to use a medium long line art brush to help me do this detailing. I'm first going to create a nice thick border just going around the entire nail. And because this nail is supposed to be, you know, a little bit more grungy, I'm not focusing on making it too neat. I just want to get the gel on there and make sure that there's a nice thickness all around. And once I've got that border, I'm going to draw 4 spikes on each corner of this nail. And in between those spikes, I'm just going to round out the edges. And that pretty much concludes the chrome detailing for this nail. After curing that black on for about 15 to 20 seconds, I'm going to follow up, of course, with the same chrome powder that I used on my middle finger. And I'm really going to make sure to get that on there as best as possible. And as you can see, it's super easy for me to get rid of the excess chrome because I did the matte top coat and also buffed it afterwards. So if you haven't tried this, I definitely do recommend it. I know that some people have recommended me trying this method with top coat instead, but personally, because I do have to go over the nail again with top coat later, I find that top coat on top of top coat just doesn't really cure that well, and you end up with the 2 layers kind of separating, and I really don't like that. So I really do enjoy using matte top coat instead. But anyways, that nail is finished after I did the chrome, so I went over that with a layer of top coat. And now we're gonna work on our middle finger, and this one's gonna be kind of interesting. We are gonna be creating a gloopy / black sludge nail, and I'm gonna be using this solid nail glue gel to help me achieve the texture that I'm going for. And I'm really just gonna be swirling this gel on top of the entire nail using a dotting tool. And just to make sure that it doesn't stick too much to my dotting tool, I did kind of use a little bit of alcohol just to help me spread it around without it sticking too much. And after curing that, I'm gonna go over this nail with 2 layers of my black gel polish. Now, one thing I will say is that even though this is kind of a gloopy nail, you do wanna make sure to apply very, very thin layers of black gel polish on top of this, just to make sure that everything is curing properly. I've had situations in the past with this gel polish in specific where it would literally just start peeling off, so definitely do be mindful of how thick you are applying these layers. So after I've got that black gel polish on, I'm gonna go in with a single layer of top coat just to finish off this nail. So we are now on to the last nail in this nail set, and we're going to be pulling out our airbrush tool. I'm going to be airbrushing the center of my thumbnail using this light green color. And honestly, I was having a bit of trouble trying to get the colors to look exactly the way that I was going for. And I think I'm still kind of learning how to use the airbrush properly. So this was definitely a bit of a time-consuming process, just getting the colors to look the way I wanted and making sure that everything was nice and centered. So after I've got that green on, I'm gonna wipe down the sides of this nail and cure that for about 30 seconds. Now, because I already showed the matte process from earlier, I just went ahead and skipped that process, and we're gonna go straight into the chrome isolation. Now, this nail's kind of interesting. It kind of looks like a cursive E in the center of this nail, so that is what I'm doing here. Now, this nail's a little bit more abstract, so you don't have to do exactly what I'm doing here. Honestly, feel free to take whatever liberties you want with this nail set, because I just think it's one of those nail sets where you can kind of just do whatever you want. But anyways, I'm gonna be using this very thick sheer black gel polish. Again, I did mix in a little bit of rhinestone glue just to give me that added depth, and I'm using a long line art brush to help me achieve this chrome isolation. And once that's done, I'm gonna cure that for about 15 to 20 seconds. And of course, I'm gonna top that with the same chrome powder from earlier. And to close off this nail, I'm gonna go in with a single layer of top coat. Okay, so here's what these nails are looking like once everything is done, and I just love how like abstract and kind of grungy they are, and I really think that overall it turned out a lot better than I was expecting. To finish off this nail set, I'm gonna go in with a little bit of cuticle oil. And that completes today's set. I really do hope you guys enjoyed this one. Again, as I said like 5 seconds ago, this nail set turned out a lot better than I thought it would, simply because my inspiration came from 5 different short nails, and I was a little bit nervous about how it would look when I changed the length of these nails. But honestly, I love it so much, and it's just very different for me. It's outside of my personal taste, but I love experimenting with different aesthetics and different styles. So you guys let me know what you think of this one in the comments. I would say that my absolute favorite nail is definitely the infrared nail and the middle finger, and I think I'd have to give honorable mentions to my pinky nail. Again, recently, I don't know what it is, but my pinky nails have like been my favorites, which is kind of weird because I feel like my pinky is always kind of awkward and, you know, I don't know, but yeah. I do think that, again, I should have made the blue on the ring finger a little bit more blue, because as you can see, it's showing up a little bit gray, which isn't too bad, but I did want to do the blue because I have a lot of black in this nail set and monochromatic tones. So if you do end up recreating this nail set, that is something that you might want to change about it. But other than that, I really do think that this is a very, very cool and just like fun nail set. I really had fun doing this, and it's a little bit more on the simple side from what I've been doing recently, which I say that very lightly because you guys will let me know in the comments if this is actually simple or not. not, I think if I were to put this nail set on a scale of 1 to 10, I would definitely give this a good 9 out of 10 because again, the ring finger is a little bit weird. I wish it was a different color, but other than that, I love it. I really do. But that is all that I have for you guys today. As always, I want to say thank you guys so much for tuning in today, and I will see you guys in the next one.